Can you look at me? Look at me! Can you look at me? Look at me!
So you think that the government is taking care of you? Do you really believe this? Or do you think they're taking you to socialism, fascism, communism? Either way, it's a form of control. Do you believe this? Or you can't just see it?
Trust. Do you trust the government?
About the small people, and we care about the small people.
Hello, everyone. A lot of people were outraged by our exclusive CBS News investigation 2 months ago, which found that thousands of Hurricane Katrina victims are living in trailers that are just plain unhealthy. Well, today the outrage spread to Congress, where House members accuse FEMA of a cover-up. 2 years after Katrina, 76,000 FEMA trailers are still being used to house families who lost their homes. Many of the trailers have high levels of formaldehyde, which can result in dangerous respiratory problems. Chief Investigative Correspondent Armin Katayan's reporting triggered today's congressional hearing.
The chairman of the hearing, Congressman Henry Waxman, blasted the Disaster Relief Agency for receiving multiple warnings about dangerous levels of formaldehyde in FEMA trailers that could lead to asthma, sinus infections, and other breathing problems.
I can't imagine how many lawsuits FEMA's now going to face because they try to cover up.
The committee's outrage was widespread, backed by internal FEMA emails and memos that only came to light within the last few days. Documents that revealed agency officials and attorneys consistently rejected repeated calls for testing from its own field staff because they would imply FEMA's ownership of this issue.
The thought that someone would put children in that situation.
Parents of some of the children testified today, opening a window into nearly 2 years of suffering.
3 of my children began having severe nosebleeds several times a week.
It got so bad that this past Tuesday I actually had to go to the emergency room.
The stories echoed what we found in our exclusive investigation broadcast in May, which was played at the hearing today.
And on May 16, 2007, CBS aired an interview, and we have a clip. I want to run that clip for you.
Included this exchange with the head of FEMA, David Paulison.
Yeah, because there's dozens of children getting sick, respiratory problems in those trailers right now.
As soon as Paulison was sworn in today, Waxman and committee members bored in.
You had a wake-up call. You must be a very hard sleeper, because that wake-up call was over a year ago.
We recognize now that we have an issue. We are dealing with it in the best manner we can.
It proved to be a bipartisan attack, the ranking Republican accusing FEMA attorneys of stonewalling the committee for more than a year.
And then when it was time to show your cards, there was nothing there.
And now CBS News has learned that health concerns in FEMA trailers could reach well beyond serious respiratory issues. Several deaths may well be linked to toxic levels of formaldehyde gas.
Earl Shorty, a resident of Louisiana, moved into a FEMA travel trailer in this compound with wife Desiree about a year ago.
But within the 4 months after we had moved in here, she just started coughing and she would get weak.
Earl says Desiree didn't smoke and that every time she left the trailer, the coughing would stop. Until, that is, she was too weak to go out. On July 2nd, she took her last breath at a local hospital.
She was just looking, she said, "Babe, I'm scared." That was the last thing I remember her telling me, that she was scared.
Ironically, on the eve of the hearing, FEMA announced it was doing massive investigations into the matter and would begin for the first time widespread testing, Katie, of those trailers.
Meanwhile, Armin, what about all those people still living in those 76,000 trailers?
Well, today, Director Paulison said it's a priority to get those people out of the trailers. He did not say how or when.
Armin Katayan. Armin, thank you.
So you think that the government is taking care of you? Do you really believe this?
Trust. Do you trust the government?
About the small people, and we care about the small people.
How much pressure were you put under to produce those trailers?
Oh, incredible amount of pressure. working production and the way they were paid, it was about getting the units out the door. Once the units were out the door, they became quality control's problem, and the pressure to get them fixed, to make them appear to be correct, was tremendous. When you first started, it was about doing the right thing for the right people. But by the halfway through, you knew it wasn't about that anymore.
Well, what
it was about
was it
how
about?
much money Gulfstream was going to make. People were getting hurt. The ambulances were there constantly. I mean, there was one day, I think there were 3 ambulances there that day. And people were
Because of the pressure to produce?
Oh, absolutely, because of the pressure to produce.
Did you have a sense that there was some health issue involved?
When you start hearing some of these people in Katrina that are having health issues with our products that we're putting out the door, and then all of a sudden it starts to strike and you start kind of connecting, what's actually going on.
Linda, you have the final sign-off as quality control.
Correct.
Tell me about how that worked with the FEMA inspectors.
FEMA would show up about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning to do their inspection, but a couple hours before they came out to do their inspection, we were instructed to open the doors and windows so that the odor wouldn't be as strong when FEMA inspectors got there.
You were instructed to do that?
Correct.
To open up the doors and windows, to let it air out?
Correct.
So there would be no
There would be less of an odor, less of a smell, absolutely. And then the FEMA inspectors would come in and they would walk every unit and they would have a checklist that they would run off and they would find problems.
Once the problems were fixed, did FEMA ever come back and recheck to make sure those problems had been fixed? Never.
Never.
How do you both feel now?
In some ways I feel betrayed, and in other ways I feel ashamed. I put my name on those products, and maybe if I'd have asked more questions, if I'd have been more proactive, people that own Gulfstream saw an opportunity to make a whole lot of money, and they did. And they did it on the backs of people that worked for them, and their victims are the people that sleep in their trailers.
That simple.
It's that simple.
So you think that the government is taking care of you? Do you really believe this?
Trust. Do you trust the government? Trust. Do you trust the government?
About the small people, and we care about the small people. About the small people, and we care about the small people.
Can you look at me? Look at me! Can you look at me? Look at me!
Trust. Do you trust the government?